Hi, welcome everyone. So we thought this might be a way around the evergreen dome that is Zoom. As many of you know, we've tried to have many meetings on Zoom, and what we have finally figured out is sending the link out through while we're at Evergreen and using an Evergreen server to do our Zoom meetings. What we found is that it just doesn't allow any outside unknown numbers to come in. So by cutting this video, we hope to alleviate that and give you some updates of the program. And instead of having to read everything in a long email, I figured just rip a video for you so that way you can see the program, see the updates and things that are new and exciting about the program. So first thing, I just want to welcome everyone for watching the video and interacting with the email. And so we have two portions of this. One, you've got the email, and if you're watching the video, then obviously you found the YouTube link to it. It is a private invitation to that. It's not posted publicly, so this is just for our meeting purposes. Secondly, there will be some calls to action within the video and within the attachments. So on the attachments, you should have an attachment for our last meeting, which our last physical meeting was last year. And so we'll need someone to make an email and just do to all and reply to all that they accept the minutes from the last meeting, and then we'll call for a vote on that one. And that one's just same thing. People email in and just say aye to that. And then the other will be the SMART goals. And the SMART goals are, I'll cover what we went over for this year's SMART goals and to update you where we're at in that process. And then finally, there will be an attachment about the foundation dinner coming up in May, and I'll talk a little bit about that here in a few minutes. So what is the purpose? It's like, I know some of you are watching this, you're like, hey, you contacted us. What did we get ourselves into before we say yes, for sure, for sure? So what you are to the students would be the biggest thing. Also to myself and to Nick and to Justin. So you're our eyes on the ground. You are what keeps us updated. We're not able to be out in the industry every single day like you are. We're not able to see the trends or hear what's going on. And that's where you come in to help us make sure you guide us in the way of getting you the best student possible or the best employee possible. And so now knowing right now that it's an all-time high epidemic of not having employees to be able to fill the positions, we know that attendance and having someone with a pulse right now is great, but we want to do better than that and get you someone better for that. And that's where you come in, is telling us what you need other than just having that physical person there, what you need as far as what professional skills, what hard skills do they need, what problem solving skills do they need. And that's where we go to you, the advisory committee, to say, what do we need to do as a culinary, as baking pastry arts, as front of the house? What do we need to focus on to get the best employees out there so these students have a good, successful beginning? So that's what this advisory committee is about. Some of the changes that I'm going to cover came directly out of recommendations from the advisory committee. So as I move down the agenda, we'll move the camera around so you can kind of see in the background. And hopefully one of the things you can see right now is, wow, the kitchen's really bright. And it is. We have a brand new ceiling that was put in, all new ceiling tiles, new lighting. They're all green. So they're also controlled by my phone, which I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not, because all of a sudden I can just turn intermittent ones off just to mess with people. But haven't done that yet, but you know me, it probably wouldn't put it past me. So there's smart lights. If we don't move, then all of a sudden they turn off. And so it's been great to have nice, bright white ceiling. And after 40 years of a ceiling, it starts to turn a little bit yellow. The other thing you can see behind me is you can see the walls back there in the back. And everything this summer was taken apart. The whole kitchen was disassembled. The only thing left in here, yeah, I'll see if I can include some pictures in the attachments of that. But the whole entire kitchen was gutted, except for the hood fan. The hood fan's the only thing that stayed in place. So everything else came out. And if you can imagine, every screw, every nut, every plate, every fixture, every even the firebox for the fire extinguisher was taken out. And then the whole entire kitchen was wrapped in FRP, which is a fiberboard that allows us just to hose everything down. On the reassembly of the kitchen, we only allowed two things to be mounted to the wall, and they're two shelves. And with those two shelves, that was it. Everything else now is movable. Nothing is attached to the wall, so everything can be moved out, and it makes it much more modular. So as I go to the next agenda item, which is the update and program renewal, kind of started here with the kitchen, so I'm going to take it to some other places so you can see. So the first stop on our tour is a tour of a spot that we've called Area 51 in the past, and it's still where everything gets stored as far as paper goods and plates and things like that. But with us building out more storage areas out front, more cabinetry, that's going to help. And we really are taking and paring things down to what do we take for a day, what plates do we need every single day, and what do we need to cover a party of 120 in multiple events. So everything else goes into storage. And so that alleviates some of the overflow. So this area that we refer to as Area 51, this is still in progress. So as many of you know, the supply chain has been slow, really, really slow. The other thing that we found out is that you need electricity. Found that out not fairly quick, but more recent. As we kept blowing breakers, they couldn't figure out why. And so just over spring break, they just did a line load to see exactly how much electricity we have coming into a main 480 volt panel to the 220 to see how much more we can pull, because this is still in the construction phase. So even though we started construction June 22nd of 2021, we're still in construction. We're in April. We still have parts that have not come in on items. So we're still in that supply chain thing, and working with a school budget and all of that, there's always some difficulties there, but we have been strongly supported. So it's made that part painless. It's just going, well, when's it going to come in? You know, the most common question. So what we're doing with this area is we're going to install another oven designated. We found out that one of the plugs that looks like a 110 plug is 220. So it'll be a designated plug. So we already have 220 ran over here, was one of the findings that we had found, and we'll be able to put in another oven. So this will be another oven, and then 4 induction burner stations. So this is more, we'll call it a technology station, but also a workbench behind. And so it'll lend another area for students to work in. So now over here in the bake shop, this is where I'm standing. There's a shelf behind me that we have all our mixers, immersion blenders, and stuff like that on. And then also our cold technology. And so all of our cold technology, meaning ice cream maker and the blast chiller, is hooked up over here. The blast chiller has been a game changer for the program. Students are now able to take and bake products such as muffins or a cake and bake it within the class time period. That was good, but they were never able to finish it until the next day, because even if their cake is in the oven and now it's got to go into the freeze, cool it down, it's not ever going to be cold enough within the class time that they have to do it. Now with the blast chiller, it goes 190 200 degrees internal down to ready to frost in about 22 minutes. And so it's allowing students to start a baked item and finish the baked item within a class period. Also, to add to this on cold technologies, we have the 50 liter of liquid nitrogen, and we've been able to keep that full. They're charging us a ridiculously low amount of money to have that filled all the time. So we're able to use liquid nitrogen for really cooling down the custards quickly, spinning them out if we want, or even just mixing the ice cream or custard bases right in the mixers. So still being in the bake shop, if you look over there, that's where we're just a few minutes ago with the with all the cold. It's just the new layout that we have. There's a few new mixers missing because we had 2 students that competed at state competition in Skills USA. They're actually registered with Washougal School District, but we share them, and they came in first and second in state competition. And so now one of them will be going to Atlanta in June. So pretty excited about that. So now coming into the storeroom, made a few changes in here. One of them that we like is this little called the Spiceology wall. Actually what I did is took the speed rails from that you would use in a bar that would hold fists. This happened to be the same exact size as those PCs. So that worked well. And then we removed all the cabinetry from inside here. So that way we had more wire shelving that we could use. And then we were able to take and divide it up better to where we have our greens and legumes and potatoes, etc. And it just gave a better layout for the overall storeroom. So one of the biggest things that was done is we've converted the South Dining Room, otherwise known as the Hood, into an American bistro. So this way it allows another style of service. And the thinking behind this was to have students have the ability to do a more bistro style, a fine dining, and also a banquet event. So they had 3 different specific ones with 3 specific setups for the rooms. So this one was the South Dining Room, again, the Hood Room. And if you look, as Nick pans, you'll see that it's been upgraded. We have new tables, new furniture in here. The floor, there's no carpet. The concrete was sanded and polished out. And it has been great for customers coming in. And we have, as I was saying that, I was thinking how many times we have actually filled the actual room. So being open to the public again has been so nice. The other thing is Justin, who's covering for our front of the house, he's our pro tech for the front of the house, he is great at technology. And so now everything is touchless. So we have scan code for the menu. So and we also have it up on a big screen, and we'll show you that here in a second. But that way customers come in, we have paper if they need it, but they can just hit their phone and hit the scan. And then also there's a gratuity one that goes into the foundation too, into our culinary foundation. So we're able to capture that as well. So this is one of the areas why we needed more electricity, because right in between these 2 beautiful tables is going to be a deli case. And the thought behind that was we would have stuff pre-prepared in the deli case, have 2 areas that can be lines for people, and be able to service students on campus. So that way we'd be able to take more clientele in. So we're waiting to see if we have enough electricity to pull to make that happen. So in the St. Helens, or the main dining room, this is this area here. And one of the 2 upgrades that happened, actually 3 upgrades that really happened with this, is we have new carpeting throughout. And so it's nice. It meets industry standards. It's interchangeable. So if we have any accidents, we're able to pull pieces up and put them back. They went in with a new color scheme. So it's nice and gray, neutral. And then the new lighting is probably the highlight for us because it lights everything up, and it really makes a difference. So in the Rainier Room, or our conference room, we're still able to open up the doors. There wasn't a lot of changes made in this room. It's been carpeted, repainted, refreshed, new tiling up where there was some water leaks and water damage. And so There hasn't been a lot updated, but what has been updated is new clients that we've been able to bring in. Nick, who's been doing all of our hooking and booking of events, has been keeping us busy. He's brought in some new corporate accounts, and then also Vancouver Rotary meets here weekly, and we can't thank them enough, because every Thursday we have this standing party with them and with the industry professionals from that. It's been fantastic. So that was our program update as far as all of our program renewal. All of those things that we just went through and all that tour that you took of the kitchen and of the dining room, those are all things that the Program Advisory Committee had recommended, had brought forth, or had made mention like, hey, this has to be updated. So again, if you're wondering like, what did they get roped into? Change, making things better. And so it's a good thing. Do you have to work a lot? No, but there is one more thing that we'll show you at the end that's new. That will we rope you in for it? Yes. Got to be honest on that one. So now the next agenda item is the SMART goals. So SMART goals, SMART are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound goals. So in other words, goals that you put together that you want to make sure that you have different points in time that you can measure, that it's something that's going to be attainable, and that there's time limits to it, like it's going to happen. So a different way to say it in our industry would be plan your work and work your plan. It kind of flows off easier than another acronym. So the ones that we came up with last year for this year was, one is to remain, just hold our retention rate. So in school, we know we have what's called attrition. So a student signs up for a program and then finds out that, hey, this isn't automotive. It's like, yeah, you're right, but we can transfer you to that program. Or, hey, I'm kind of worried about my homeschool. I need to take new classes. And that's usually probably the biggest one, that with the Core 24, that they found that they need to pick up a class at their homeschool and they're not going to be able to take this class. So we have other safety nets in place on that, though. So one of the things we wanted to focus on coming out of COVID, which was teach at home, kind of like this, but on Zoom or in Google Classroom. So from that to going back to live. So I would say the majority were all excited about coming back live. It's like, wow, we actually get to touch the food, we get to play with all that stuff. And it's certainly been much easier for teaching, as you can imagine. So, but we also knew that there was going to be a transition there of, now there's daily accountability again called attendance, whereas with last year the schedule was just all over the place, and depending on what type of year or what time of year, and really going into the beginning of the year not knowing what was going to happen. Right, we only know what's going to happen after we've been through it. So we knew that we wanted to start the year with a lower number for enrollment, because we didn't have a kitchen, we didn't have a dining room. In fact, I'll try to include some pictures of what we started with and where we started. Literally, we started in the space that I'm standing right now, and this was our classroom, and we couldn't go into the actual dining room because it was still under construction, and we were doing class while there was still people hooking up electricity and plumbing. And so it was the best experience, and the experience that I wouldn't want to go through again from that way. And that was starting with 147 boxes of stuff packed up and having to unpack everything. But for an experience for a student, I think it was priceless, because it was literally opening a brand new restaurant. So it was just like if you were opening a new restaurant, it was the same exact thing, same exact kind of problems too. So you turn something on, it wouldn't work, you'd have a problem to solve it. So our retention coming in started with lower numbers. We've I think we've lost 2 over the full entire school year and picked up 2. So we're still holding great. There's no problem there. Enrollment, we knew that we wanted to take enrollment up next school year, and it was something I wanted to focus on to make sure that we push the numbers. One of the things we know that there's other programs out there. There's more and more competitive, but we'll say competitive. There's single period or block period classes at their home school. So more and more people are seeing that there is culinary is popular, baking is popular, and so they open like programs, which is great because it preps them in their schedule to be able to come here after they're done with that class. So they come in with an advantage. Also, we know in our industry, there's room for everybody, but also being cognizant that could affect enrollment. And so I wanted to make sure we went out there, did marketing as much as we could and do things that we knew would be helpful and relevant to students. So this next school year is what we were looking at. Our enrollment's strong, and I'll cover that in just a moment. So our third one was to increase the industry certification. So certifications that students would receive upon a graduation. So last year, because of COVID, we only had 8, and it's a very low number, and it will be increased this year. I believe with our precision exams and the ACF and the FDRP, my target number is around 23 to 25 certifications. And so that's my goal, that's my vision, but I think we're in line for that. And then finally, the 22-23 enrollment, we have full classes at 120%. So we over-enrolled. I like to over-enroll to have that safety buffer, so that way we know there could be attrition over the summer because they have to enroll now and then wait 6 months before they come in. So a lot of things can happen within 6 months. So we over-enrolled to 120%, and even with over-enrolling to 120%, we have a very, very, very long, deep wait list for students coming in. So very popular. In fact, one of the largest wait lists on campus. So we're very excited about that. So we've made a dent in that. And so on those SMART goals, which on our next meeting, we'll come up with ones for next year. Now, finally, on ACF recertification. So moving down the next agenda item, on our ACF certification or reaccreditation. Not my certification I do this year, the program reaccreditation was last year. We had 0 findings. So in other words, the team that came out found 0 things that needed to be changed. That was the second time running, which earned us an exemplary status on the as a school. So if you go on to acfchefs.org, look up schools, look up Cascadia Tech, and you'll see that both baking and pastry and culinary arts are both listed as programs of exemplary status or exemplary program. So very proud of that. That's something we wanted to achieve. So out of all of the schools out there, there was only a handful that had that dual certification and also that status. Brings us down to the next one. May 7th, if you mark your calendar, there's a foundation dinner at A Casino for the foundation. They've held it before. If you've been part of it at the Heathman Lodge, it's nice to say, it's fun to say, it's outgrown the Heathman Lodge. It started here and it outgrew this. They went to Heathman, it outgrew Heathman, now they went to A. So that is May 7th. You can contact myself, you can contact Dennis Campy, you can contact Nick Ellison, you can contact just about anybody, and we can get you to the place to get tickets for that. And then finally, May 3rd. May 3rd is going to be an in-person advisory meeting. We're going to do everything we can, if you're not able to make it, present here in person. But we're going to provide food. So we have a little bribery there for you at 3 p.m. So May 3rd, 3 p.m. It's Tuesday. We'll have some food. We're going to have the in-person physical meeting. I promise you, I will keep it within an hour and 10 minutes. I know time is valuable, and we want to always be mindful and respectful of that time. And also at that time, we'll be signing you up for the next thing I'm going to show you. Thank you. So what do you do when you have a year off of COVID and sitting at home? You come up with ideas, and some are good and some are bad, and we're hoping this is going to be one of the good ones, but this is where you come in. So what this is our podcast station. And you're like, I didn't know you had a podcast station. It's like, not yet. We do have one registered, though. We do have a domain registered. We do have everything for it. We even have someone from Clark College who's being incredibly helpful in working with us on this project. And what the overall vision of this project looks like is it looks like you. And so what do I mean by that? This is one of the resource ways we're using technology to get into the students' world, as opposed to us getting into, or us forcing our world into them. What do I mean by that? Students love technology. Students love the idea of a podcast. Students love doing all of that. But also, I love the idea of bringing technology into the classroom and also having them be able to do it and then ask you questions. And it could be hidden as a way to teach job interview. So in a highly technical world, there's two things that I want out of this. One, I want students to be able to ask and answer questions effectively, especially in a job interview. Two, I want them to interview you to find out about you. But don't worry, it doesn't have to be like the 3-hour-long podcast. These could be small quips that are just based on a topic. And what are those topics? Competencies. And so say one of the competencies is saute or knife skills or about knives or anything like that, or about tools. We have a menagerie of topics that you could talk about, but we want the students to interview you and to just have a conversation. Even just holding a conversation, I feel, is so important for students to be able to do. So not only will they run the podcast, update the podcast, and get it launched, they'll be in charge of writing their questions down. They won't blind question you. In other words, you'll get a copy of the questions prior so it helps with the conversation. And then just have a conversation about whatever it is you're passionate about. How did you get started? What did you do? Because you're the ones that they're going to look to for that wisdom. I'm just the teacher. I'm just the teacher. I'm just out there working with them daily. You're the wisdom for them. And so I just feel it's really important for us to start reaching out to our community to get your input, get your feedback. What did you do when you left? How did you get into the industry? What would you do differently? Just conversational questions around food. And then we'll get it launched. What we want to do is get 12 stacked. In other words, we want to get 12 cut and edited and then release them once a month. And so there'll be more information coming on that, but that is one thing that you can do. And even if you're in New York and you're on this, guess what? This one plugs into a phone and we can do it over the phone too. So it doesn't even have to be in person. So we have the technology. I think we have the knowledge to do this. So that's where you come in, and we will get you. You can see more on May 3rd. Is it May 3rd? May 3rd.